It, well, it's
Oh,
asking whether it's sent to be recorded or not. So I'll hit okay. I'll hit okay.
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 Well, recording in process. Welcome to the Stellar Hope Show, where we discover hope in the midst of adversity. Now, we're talking to a very interesting young man. His name is Ryan, and Ryan is a professional educator. He's working on the National Board Certification for Professionalism in Teachers. He has his master's degree in curriculum and instruction. He got his teaching degree at Whitworth College here in Spokane, Washington. All of his eighth graders love him. And Ryan's specialty is all-American history. Well, Ryan, thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Sydney. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and thanks for teaching all-American history. We sure need that today, don't we?
Knowing about your country is super important, and citizenship, and I just think history, knowing where you came from, really helps in guiding the path forward. And so happy to play my role in that, helping students understand.
You know, knowing history does help in guiding the path forward, doesn't it, Ryan? It gives a person courage in the heart and a sense of integrity and purpose in life.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, there's several reasons why we should study history, but kind of like what you're saying is identity. We know who we are based on where we've been and the people who've come before us. And I think when you know who you are, when you know your identity, it does give you more confidence in it. And it gives you that sense of purpose for sure. I think that's a really important reason for studying.
Yeah. Well, I would love to go in the history, but why don't we talk about something a little bit different? Maybe I can interview you another time on history, Ryan. That would be fascinating. I really think that the world needs to know American history and to know the truth about it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, for tonight, our purpose of being here is to discover hope. Now, you as our viewer, with these desperate times we're in, with the supposed COVID, loss of income, social isolation, and lots of people may be sick. We're definitely at a place in society where it would be so easy to lose hope, and we can't do that. I discovered hope when I was a young lady dying of cancer, and I got touched by the hand of God. Even though I didn't really believe in God, he still touched me and healed me. So I discovered hope in Jesus. Yeah, that's where I discovered hope. Ryan, is in Jesus.
Yeah.
So, Ryan, we understand you were in Hurricane Katrina all those years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So for a long time, I was a musician. That's what I intended to be. Teaching came later on. And after high school, I spent a lot of time looking for what would be the best place for me, what would be the best college to go to, as any high school, junior or senior does. And within that saxophone world, because that was my instrument, I loved jazz music. I was a saxophonist. The University of Southern Mississippi was one of the top choices that kept coming up. And so went through the whole process, ended up going there, got a little bit of a scholarship to kind of ease the way. And I thought it would be a great adventure. I was from Spokane. I had lived here, grown up here my whole life. And so chance to experience something new for sure, in different part of the country, different people, and all of that. So I graduated high school, went down there, spent 2 years studying music down there. And there's a lot of great things, been a lot of great people. But I did find that when you pursue something that you are passionate about in a, I guess, more academic environment that was more competitive, as music is, because it's just naturally competitive. That's just part of the culture, the way it works. I started not to enjoy it as much. The joy of music had been sort of lost. And so as that's happening, as I'm thinking, I may need to to take a different path in life, that's when Hurricane Katrina happened. Is right at the end or start of the third year, beginning of the third year that I was there. And
Now, I remember Hurricane Katrina. People in America were terrified, absolutely terrified. I saw videos of people dying. I saw videos of people trapped and water coming up, and the whole United States was absolutely terrified. Now, do you remember what year that was?
Yeah, it was in August of 2005, right at the end of August. Yeah. And yeah, it was terrifying. So basically, that's the whole backdrop, kind of how I was feeling. But one weekend early in the year, it was I think a Friday afternoon, ready to go weekend. And I was at one of my friend's apartments, and he had the TV on and the news was playing, and they happened to have the weather report. And you know how they have like when they talk about storms and hurricanes, they have the entire the map and the cone of kind of possible paths that it will.
Oh yeah.
And the entire state of Mississippi was in that path, and I was like, "Yikes!" like that can't be good. Although I did, the year before I had been in another hurricane. It was Ivan, and the Florida Panhandle got hit pretty bad. But where I was at, they kind of built it up, but it was not as bad as they had anticipated. So I thought this would be the same. I thought, yeah, okay, no big deal. It'll be just a really bad storm, no problem. And so went through the weekend, and then they told us, because the storm got closer and closer to making landfall, and I was staying in a dorm myself at the time on campus, and they told us, if you can at all possible, go home, do so, get out of here. And of course, I'm 1,500 miles plus away from home. There's no way I was going to be able to pick up and leave on that short of notice.
They told you to evacuate. Now, how far from New Orleans, where the hurricane was, how far were you from New Orleans, Brian?
Oh, about 90 miles. It was in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, is where the college was. And so, yeah, they told us to get out of there. I mean, the path, we were in the path, right in the middle of the path of what they anticipated, all the weather forecasts. And so, there's a few of us who were in that position where we couldn't leave. And so we got on the first floor of the dorm the night before it was supposed to make landfall. And they said, hold on, hold on, and kind of waited out. It was interesting. It's kind of frightening when they kind of you go from not thinking it's going to be much of anything to all of a sudden like it's a huge deal. And so went to bed that night, woke up next morning, looked out my window, and it was basically complete destruction is what I saw. You got trees down everywhere, power lines down, and cars in the parking lot destroyed. I mean, of course, no power anywhere in the area. It was almost like all of the societal kind of structures we have in place kind of disappearing overnight. And that's kind of it disillusions you a little bit. It kind of wakes you up, and it's unsettling, I think, to say the least. So
you went to bed at night on the first floor, knowing that you were in direct path of the hurricane. They had told you to evacuate, but you literally couldn't. Now, you say you went to bed that night and then woke up and looked outside and everything was destroyed. I mean,
well, it kind of felt like that for sure. Yeah, I mean, I know people who lost everything. The houses damaged beyond repair. People lost all their possessions. Power lines down everywhere. No power. I mean, you couldn't get gasoline because of the power outages. And so, yeah, it was just kind of a tale of 2 days, two different kind of atmospheres or scenes that you could witness. Very different from the night to the next morning. So yeah, I mean, absolutely unsettling to say the least.
So one day you were living in your normal environment. You knew the hurricane was coming. You went to sleep. Now, were you able to sleep, Ryan?
Eventually, Eventually, yes. Yeah.
Did you really sleep?
Well, I think I did. Yeah. I
Oh
mean,
my gosh, that's great. Yeah,
well,
the strength of youth, being able to sleep through a hurricane. Okay, so
well,
I have met a person who slept through a hurricane, Ryan. And then you woke up and the whole world was totally disoriented, totally disoriented.
yeah. Hmm.
And it
Exactly.
was very disturbing. It was like a psychological impact. The normal world, as you knew it, was shattered.
Hmm.
How
Hmm.
long were you there before the power came on or anything happened?
Well, the interesting thing is a friend of mine who was actually from Spokane, as well, ended up there. We kind of combined forces because I still in my car had about half a tank of gas, I think, somewhere thereabouts, and he didn't. But I didn't have access to any money, because of the power. The bank was closed, but he had some cash, and so we kind of combined forces. And probably 2 days later, we drove north to Memphis, Tennessee, several hours, and we stayed.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, right. We stayed in like I think it was a Motel 6 or something like that, right near Graceland, and right in that
Oh,
area. So we just kind of hung
oh
out
yeah.
for days. Yeah.
Okay,
Um,
so you had cash, you had a car, you were young and strong, you had your companion. So
yeah.
you got in the car and
We
drove
just drove away.
away.
We just drove away. Yeah, that was. I think it's been such a long time, but I think it was 2 days or so. So first day or so, we're just trying to pick up the pieces. I know he lived my friend lived in an apartment complex, helping them kind of get things kind of together, fixing the roof and whatnot. And I kind of helped out different places where I could. We were just trying to figure things out, just trying to figure out what's going on. But
Mhm.
it's scary. I mean, like I said, I know people who lost everything. There's a lot of stories from that town I was in where, like there were seniors who passed away because they literally couldn't get oxygen tanks in semi trucks into the town, and it was
Yeah.
a lot of sad things. And so in that, speaking about hope, it's again that disillusionment. I was in a position where I was kind of questioning life decisions, right, and what path my life would take. And then you got the storm at the same time. It was kind of the lowest moment. And so, it was nice to get out of there, go to Memphis for just a little bit where the effects of the storm weren't really felt there. It was out of the range. And so kind of a chance to clear my mind, right, and just kind of get some distance from everything that was happening in my life, and maybe look at it more objectively, I suppose.
Okay, so you were trying to get direction for your life. All of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden, a hurricane strikes.
Yeah.
You get in the car, drive north, and
Mm-hmm.
then what happens?
Well, what happens was a complete change in life direction. I decided that it was time to leave. It was time to not choose it as a path. It was time to head back to Spokane, and I made that decision in the middle of all the context that we just mentioned, but
Yeah.
also context of my family was saying, and other friends of mine, they were all saying as I was kind of talking out my next steps with them, no, you got to keep going. You have to stay on this path. You have to, music is who you are. Like how I was always
Oh,
associated. They always
oh,
said, music and Ryan always together, right? It was kind of like my identity, kind of going back to I mentioned that
oh.
earlier. And I think it just takes, I don't know, everything kind of being wiped away, right? Like I told you, like the societal structures kind of going away in a hurricane, and everything um, kind of being cleared away so that your mind can make the decisions that you need to make for yourself. And it's kind of, it was hopeful in that when everything kind of was cleared away, I could finally do what I needed to do for myself. I was freed from the constraints, so to speak, of kind of what other people's opinions were of my direction in life. Because I mean, when you're talking about survival, when you're talking about people's needs, there's no time to think about what other people are worried, you know, you're not concerned with other people's judgments of you. You're just concerned about the next step. Can I get the the basic things to survive? You know, the food, the shelter. And so when that kind of happened, it freed me, I think, to be the person I wanted to be, and to do the things that I really wanted to do, not for other people.
Oh, Ryan, that is so fascinating. What an interesting accounting of your life. That is so interesting. So to kind of recap, what you've said is you were a young man, you loved music, and you went and you lost your joy in music, but everybody was telling you you had to stay there and, you know, continue on. And all of a sudden, the hand of God comes in, and this hurricane wipes away everything, gives you a whole new perspective, and frees you for the life that brings you joy and that God had for you.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, I think certainly things happen as they should. I think in the long run, you know, and I think sometimes people just need a wake up call. And for me, that's the meaning I'm kind of placing on it. And that's it was a turning point for me, no doubt about it. You know, and it was not a very hopeful few days, but I think when the hope is the lowest, that's when the light shines through. That's when the next step, the path emerges. So that's how I kind of view it, at least. How I kind of see it.
Well, that is so beautiful. So you were at your lowest and hope was lowest. The hurricane came. It was a wake-up call, and it was a turning point. And during that time of darkness and lost hope, the light shined, and you had a whole new direction in life. Isn't that fascinating? Any last words for our viewer?
No, just that hope is important, and we all need to find the hope, especially like you said at the top of this, the situation our world's in. I think, man, hope is in short supply. It feels like in some corners. So I'm glad you're doing this channel and all these interviews to show people that there's always hope. It's always out there if you can find it.
Well, isn't that true? There's always hope, and it's always out there if a person can find it. I think there's a verse in the Bible or a saying somewhere that says, hope springs eternal.
Mm.
Okay, Ryan Iverson, I really am, my heart is just delighted. I'm almost laughing that you were slept through the hurricane and then got in your car and drove north. What interesting.
Yeah.
This is great. You really brought me joy and hope. And our viewer, Ryan, has brought you joy and hope too. So I love you, Ryan. I love you, our viewer. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.